Hey y'all, hey, it's your girl Morgan Renee. We are in this is Storytime Morma. We're Let the Circle Be Unbroken, which is the sequel to Roll of Thunder, Hear My Cry by Mildred D. Taylor. We are in chapter 9 today, and it's a little lengthy one. So if it doesn't end up being 2 parts, let's just try to get all the way through it. Mr. Peck had been right. The Turners weren't the only ones to have their cotton plowed up. The Shorters and the Laniers lost an acre each, the Averys a quarter, the Ellises and Mrs. Leanne a third, as all through the community, fields blooming with large cream-colored blossoms and plants hanging heavy with bowls beginning to fill with soft puffs of cotton were being turned back to the earth as they had been 2 years ago. But our fields were not touched. Neither were the Wigginses. Only plantation fields were being plowed up, including those of white farmers. As the hot days of summer moved into July and the plow-ups continued, dissatisfaction grew more intense and the grumblings louder. "Shuckies, man," said Ron Shorter as a group of us crossed the school lawn after a morning of Bible classes which were offered each summer. "I thought my papa was going to bust somebody sure when that Mr. Peck and that little Deputy Haynes come telling us that we had to plow up that field. Lord have mercy, what they expect us to do?" "Supposed to get a higher price," Clarence reminded him. "Guaranteed." "Shoot," Ron exclaimed. "You ought to know as well as me ain't none of us sharecropping going to see no money, higher selling price or not. It's always the same. After the deducts, we got nothing. I tell y'all, this kind of stuff keep me up. I tell y'all, this kind of stuff keep up. Me and Don think about going to the CCC or maybe going up to Jackson looking for work, because we don't much see how we going to hold out this year. We don't get none of that government money Mr. Granger holding on to." Don nodded, affirming his brother's statement. I sighed, hoping they were both just talking. "Well, shoot, man," said little Willie. "Ain't hardly no jobs no place excepting at that hospital building site, and they ain't even hiring now. Way I figure, you ain't got a job, you most likely ain't going to get one." "What about the cane fields?" Little Willie stared apprehensively at Mo. "The cane fields? In Louisiana." Stacy studied Mo. "You thinking about going?" I looked at Mo, still feeling his pain at the loss of so much of his cotton. "No reason much to stay here now. Be better I could get me work where I can get me some money." As we reached the road, Dubé Cross came running up, and the subject changed from cane fields to Union. Y'all hear about the meeting with white and colored? First time. Night after next." "Night?" exclaimed little Willie. "Man, ain't nobody in their right mind around here going to be meeting with no white folks at night. 7 o'clock, still be light over at Mr. Tate Sutton's." "What's it going to be about?" questioned Stacy. "The plow-ups? Ain't y'all heard?" he cried. "Mr. Wheeler back from Washington to say he know how come all this plowing been going on. Wasn't ordered by Washington. Them folks on the AAA committees, Mr. Granger and Mr. Montier, they's the ones at fault. Seems they figured a way to plant more cotton than they were supposed to, and Mr. Farnsworth, he gone along with it, and that's what Mr. Wheeler figured. Them old landlords come telling Mr. Peck that they just done made a mistake. Shoot, they made a mistake, all right. They was planting a whole bunch of them acres that wasn't supposed to be planting, and buying up other folks' bail tax too, so they wouldn't have to pay that 50% tax." Dubé stopped and looked at our stunned faces, then nodded firmly in confirmation of his own words. "That's right. They was getting government money for them acres, and then figures to get money from the cotton they grow on them same acres. Getting money on them twice was what they was doing. Mr. Wheeler, he say the Washington AAA folks was about to come down here and do some checking, and these here old landlords heard about it and set everybody to plowing to get their figures straight for the day check. Ain't that something?" "Lord," said Mo. The word was no more than a whisper. Y'all tell y'all's folks about the meeting here. I still gotta tell everybody up and down the road along this way, so I'm gonna have to go." He took off, running toward the Ellises, then yelled back, "Stacy, see y'all later when I come up that way." For a while, the older boys continued standing in the road, talking of this new revelation and what could happen at the meeting, but Christopher John, little man, and I, growing restless, started slowly down the road. Suzella went with us. By the time we reached the crossroads, Mo and Stacy still hadn't caught up, and we stopped to wait. Wish they'd come on, I said. They belong directly, said Christopher John, then cocked his head. Car coming. We waited a moment. Stuart Walker's Hudson appeared on the rise. As soon as I saw it, I sighed and turned back toward the school. Christopher John and Little Man, understanding, followed my lead, but Suzella wanted to know why we were turning back. Them boys are always up to no good, I explained as she unwillingly came behind us. Better we meet up with Stacy and Mo. We managed to get only a short distance down the road before the car rolled along beside us. Keep on walking, I ordered, not even looking around. But then Stuart said, "Excuse me, ma'am." I turned, wondering who he was talking to. "Would you mind stopping for a minute?" Against my advice, Suzella stopped so that we had to do the same. Stuart, at the wheel, braked and stepping out, took off his hat. He smiled somewhat sheepishly at Suzella and said, "Ma'am, excuse me, but by chance, you Mr. Henry Harrison's niece visiting from Shreveport?" Suzella looked at him blankly. "Not to be too forward, ma'am, but we hear tell she's here, and we seen you here with these youngins, and knowing they live next to Mr. Harrison's place, we thought maybe they was escorting you someplace. Figured you might be her." I spoke up hastily, afraid where this was heading. "This here, she ain't Mr. Harrison's niece. This here's my name's Suzella," she said, cutting me off. "Suzella Rankin." I stared at her and shook my head at her stupidity. "Where you from?" "New York." "Ah, I see. You gonna be here long?" "A few weeks." Stuart fumbled somewhat awkwardly with his hat. I had never seen him act like this before. "Well, Miss Suzella, my name's Stuart Walker. My family owns a plantation on the other side of Strawberry." He motioned toward the car. "That there's Joe Billy Monteer in the front seat." Joe Billy immediately jumped out, swept off his hat, and nodded to Suzella. "And Pearson Wells there in the back." Pearson respectfully touched his hat. "Ma'am." Stuart waited a moment for Suzella to speak. I waited too, afraid for her to say anything, afraid to say anything myself. Stuart had made an embarrassing mistake, and I knew it wasn't going to be very pleasant when he realized what he had done. "Who you visiting, if not Mr. Harrison?" Suzella crimsoned. She kept her eyes on Stuart, away from us. "It was nice to have met all of you, but I really have to be going on now." She started to turn away, but Stuart stopped her. "Forgive me, Miss Suzella, but you being new to these parts, I'd be most happy to show you around." I shot a quick glance at Christopher John and Little Man, and their eyes said what I already knew. We had to put a stop to this. I braced myself. "Suzella, come on." Stuart's eyes left Suzella and fell on me. "You best watch your manners, gal." Please don't talk to her that way," Suzella said. Stuart's voice ran smooth again. "You being from the north, Miss Suzella, you most likely don't know that down here we demands respect from our niggers. We let something like this slide by, they'll go walking all over us." My anger rose, fiery and hot, but I now knew better than to say what I felt. Suzella moved away from Stuart. "We really have to be going. It was very nice to have met you." "My pleasure. One thing before you go. I'd like to come calling on you. You don't mind?" For the first time, Suzella appeared nervous. "No, that wouldn't be possible. I'm really quite a reputable person. I'm persistent, too." He smiled charmingly. "Maybe I could see you at church." I started down the road, about to explode. Little Man came with me. Christopher John, torn, looked around indecisively and waited for Suzella. I really have to go," she repeated and started walking. "Can I give you a lift?" No, thank you." "Well, I'll be seeing you again. I'll be seeing you again, though, Miss Suzella. I'll make sure of that." The car door slammed, then the car passed us with a honk, moving slowly to avoid raising the dust. When the car was gone, Suzella ran to catch up with Little Man and me. "Cassie." I was burnt and let her know it, too. "Don't talk to me, girl. Don't you say one devilish word. But I can't stand you no way." She pulled back, her face growing pale at my attack. Then Christopher John quietly reprimanded her. "Suzella, you was wrong to do what you done. Uncle Hammer, he said that kind of thing get you in trouble. Round here acting like you white." Not Little Man. "Round here acting like you white," grumbled a disenchanted Little Man with an angry, disappointed glance back at her. On the way home, none of us said anything further about the meeting, and Stacy, with his mind on other things, seemed not to notice how quiet we all were. I certainly didn't feel like talking, but I was surprised when neither Christopher John or Little Man said anything either. I suppose they were feeling let down that Suzella had acted as she had. Another idol had fallen. As for Suzella, I didn't know what she was thinking, and frankly, I didn't much care. I was tired of her. When we reached the house, Russell Thomas was there, sitting on the back porch with Mama and Big Mom. It was a surprise to see him, and the boys and I brightened noticeably. "How long you going to be here with us this time?" Stacy asked, pumping his hand. Got myself a whole week." Russell stepped back to look Stacy over. Man, how you get to be tall as me? Stacy laughed. I just keep growing. Miss Mary, you watch out. You're gonna soon have yourself a full-grown man around here. Sometimes I feel I already have one. By the way, Russell, I don't think you've met my niece, Suzella. No, ma'am, ain't met her, but I gotta admit, didn't heard about her. He extended his hand. Russell Thomas, Miss Leanne's grandson. She's spoken of you. I'm sure she's pleased that you're home, Suzella said graciously. Then, excusing herself, she went into the house. Russell stared after her. Well, like everybody say, she's mighty pretty, all right. He sat back down. Kind of short on her words, though. That's her way, said Big Ma. I groaned, but no one but Christopher John, who shot a disapproving glance my way, heard. Mama, we run into Dubé, said Stacy, and he told us Mr. Wheeler come back and how come all this plowing up been going on. He did? What'd he say? Stacy repeated what Dubé had told us. Well, I declare. A discussion of the plow-ups followed as Russell asked about what had been happening in the community. In the midst of the conversation, Big Ma turned to Stacy and told him to get the watermelon that was cooling in the well. I went with him, and together we tugged at the heaviest of the 3 ropes hanging from the scaffolding and brought the 3 ropes hanging from the scaffolding, and brought up the melon, a large, round, dark green one, the kind Big Ma preferred above any other. Later, when all of us but Suzella, who had decided to keep herself in the house, were finishing up our second slices of watermelon, Dubé arrived. Immediately, he started in about the union, his voice rising in angry indignation as he quoted Mr. Wheeler about the reasons for the plow-ups, then about the conditions of sharecroppers and day laborers across the South. I understand you've been doing quite a bit of work with them union leaders, Russell said. Work with them when I can. This here union could mean a whole lot. We stand together. And this here meeting folks gonna be... And at this here meeting, folks going to be deciding what to do about the plow-ups and the checks, I take it? Dubé nodded. That's right. Mr. Wheeler, he say, too, the union going to demand $1.75 a day for field wages, too. That there, it'll help folks like me a whole lot. Mr. Wheeler, he say we stick together, everybody be living a whole lot better. He say, Russell smiled at Dubé. You kind of think a lot of this, Mr. Wheeler, don't you? Dubé looked a little shamefaced and lowered his head. I guess I does. Then quickly he looked Russell in the eye. But I ain't Toming none. Wasn't thinking that. Dubé looked relieved, for he, like most of the boys and young men in the community, admired Russell and wanted his approval. Just that what he say makes sense, and he be doing something about it. From what I've been hearing, it makes sense to me too. What else you know about it? Obviously pleased by Russell's interest, Dubé talked a good half hour more about the union and Morris Wheeler, John Moses, and other union leaders, and how the union was started and what its goals were, what the importance of the union and his role in it, his excitement growing as he talked, and his stuttering lessening. Russell, you just ought to meet Mr. Wheeler and them your own self and talk to him. They's good folks, and they can explain everything better than me. His eyes brightened. Fact to business, why don't you come on with me now? I be going there as soon as I make these last few stops. Russell thought a moment. Where they live? Over by Mr. John Bass's place. I understand they stay there together. Colored and the white union man? Yeah, they do. Again, Russell was thoughtful. Finally, he said, tell you what. Can't go today, and tomorrow I got to make a run into Strawberry with Cousin Paige. But what about late tomorrow afternoon sometime? You think you might be going that way? Go if you want to. All right, then. Why don't you stop by Mama Lee's on the way over around 4? Should be back from town by then. After Russell and Dubé left, I walked out to the pasture to figure out what I should do about Suzella. Then, deciding to talk to Stacy about her, I came back and crossed the yard to the barn where he was working. I want to talk to you, I said as soon as I cleared the door. You know what that Suzella done today? Stacy turned to look at me. This here's about Suzella, I don't want to hear it. What do you mean you don't want to hear it? I demanded, just about sick of him too. You don't even know what she done. And I don't want to know. All you do is complain about that girl. But Mr. Morrison came up the drive in the wagon loaded with hay, and Stacy went to meet him. Little man and Christopher John sat upon the stacks, and as Mr. Morrison turned the wagon around to the back of the barn, they yelled directions to him. You're all right now, Mr. Morrison, just a bit further now. When the wagon came to a halt and Jack had been unhitched, Stacy hopped up on the stacks to push them into position for unloading. I hopped up as well, and once the stacks at the edge of the wagon had been taken off, I struggled to pull the stack out by myself. As he worked, Mr. Morrison spoke about other hay crops he had gathered through the years, some in Mississippi, some in states like Kansas, Missouri, and Texas. He had traveled a lot, and it seemed to me, who had gotten no farther than Strawberry, that he had been just about everywhere. Mr. Morrison, you would never think about leaving us, would you? Stacy asked, pulling a bell close to the wagon's edge. I looked up from my struggle, wanting to hear his answer. Don't expect I would, he said. Y'all's my family now. Assured that he wasn't going anywhere, I went back to tugging at the bell. Mr. Morrison saw me and let out a bemused laugh. You figure you got enough muscle on you, girl, to be doing that? Ah, Mr. Morrison, I got plenty of muscle. Mr. Morrison grunted. Well, I expect it wouldn't hurt none if them muscles of yours had a little bit of help now, do you? He glanced over to Christopher John and Little Man and told them to help me. Christopher John and Little Man stepped in beside me, and Little Man said, Move, gal. Let some real muscles in. Mr. Morrison stopped and looked back at him. What's that you said? Little Man looked up, his face showing his surprise. Sir, you used the word gal, ain't that right? Yes, sir. You ever hear your papa or your Uncle Ham or anybody in this house talking to women folks with that word? No, sir. Then don't you use it. It's common. White folks use that word to talk down to colored women, and too many colored folks done gone and picked it up. White folks don't respect our female folks, so that give us all the more reason to respect them and don't be saying to them the way the white folks do. That make sense to you? Yes, sir. Good. Then get on back to work. Once the bells were stacked, I tried to continue my talk with Stacy, but he abruptly cut me off, refusing to listen. I done told you, Cassie, I don't have time to hear about it, he said, and walked off. You just wait, I cried after him. You just wait till you need somebody to talk to. Need to talk to me. That little outburst did not even make him miss a step, and both discouraged and angry, I went across to the yard where Mama was taking down the wash. I grabbed one of Stacy's shirts and slapped at it furiously before folding it. Now what's the matter with you? Mama asked from the next row. Ah, that's Stacy. He just made me so mad. I told that boy I wanted to talk to him, but he didn't have the time. Here, help me with this sheet. I stepped back and took down one end of the sheet as Mama took down the other, and we folded it in half. You know, Stacy has a bit of a problem of his own. I don't think things are going that well for him. What kind of problem he got? Mama shook the sheet to straighten it. Liking someone that's special to him and having trouble with it. You mean JC? Ah, that ain't nothing. When you care for someone, it's something. Well, I'm sorry about all that, I said, though I couldn't dredge up too much sympathy about it. But he didn't have to be so mean to me just because he's feeling bad. He probably didn't intend to be. We finished the sheet and started another. Mama, Stacy and me, we used to be such good friends. Now he don't hardly say boo to me. Mama smiled. Ah, don't you worry, she said. Stacy's at an age where he's looking for room. He's changing and he's looking for his life to change too. And he really doesn't have much patience with folks he's been around all his life. But that'll all pass. I remember when your cousin Bud went through the same thing, and I was one upset little girl because I just loved Bud, so we'd always been close. I just didn't understand why he had to change. And if we both eventually had to change, why it couldn't be at the same time. She laughed. It didn't make any sense to me that just because they were 3 years between us, it should make any difference. But it all worked out all right. We went through a few years where we were always at odds with each other, but when we both got a bit older, we became friends again, closer than ever. It'll be the same with you and Stacy. You really think so, Mama? Most certainly do. Assured of the prospects for improved relations with Stacy looming in the future, my thoughts turned once more to Suzella. I asked Mama if she thought Suzella was pretty. Very, she said. Well, I don't see how come everybody gets so excited about the way she looked. JC and Clarice just as pretty. Mama agreed. Yes, they are. Well, how come everybody makes such a fuss about Suzella then? Well, Suzella's pretty in a different way. When I was in school in Jackson, there was an Italian family lived near the school, and there were 3 daughters in the family. Very pretty. Suzella reminds me of them. She's got an Italian look about her. Also, you have to remember that some people are taken with her just because she does look white. Why? It makes her special. But why? Oh, it goes back a long way. We've been taught so long to think we're less than anybody else. Many of us have grown to believe it, in some ways, if not others. And a lot of us figure the lighter we are, the better we are. Like white people. But it ain't so. No, it's not. But that's how some people figure. Well, she may look to suit some folks, but Big Ma always say pretty is as pretty does. Now, just why you bring that up? Because if you ask me, Suzella don't always do so pretty. And besides, she makes me so doggone mad. I told you I want you to be nice to her. I've been being nice as I can be, but when she was standing up there today talking to Stewart, Mama stopped folding the sheet and looked sharply at me. Not Stewart Walker. Yes'm. What were you doing talking with Stewart Walker? She demanded. Wasn't me. It was Suzella. I told her, come on. What were they talking about? I knew it was not out of idle curiosity that Mama was asking. I also knew she should be told, though I wondered if I wanted her to know mainly so that Suzella could fall from her grace, as she had from Christopher John's and Little Man's. Well, I decided to ponder the ethics of the situation later and told her. Mama was silent when I finished, the expression on her face not quite readable. She helped me finish the sheets, then went into the house. I gave her a moment and followed, trailing her through the house to my bedroom. I understand you ran into Stewart Walker today, Mama was saying as I came in. Suzella was sitting in a cushioned chair by the front window with an open book on her lap. She looked up hesitantly. Yes, I did. I understand also you led those boys to believe you're white. Suzella bowed her head, allowing her hair to fall, half covering her face. Is that so? I didn't tell them I was white. You didn't tell them you were colored either. Suzella looked up, her face defiant. Why should I? I've got as much white blood as colored. Mama eyed her sharply. Get this through your head, Suzella. If you've got any colored in you, that makes you colored. My mother says I'm not. She says I'm not colored. That's her problem, Mama snapped. My problem is seeing to it that you recognize what you are, at least as long as you're down here. Stewart didn't question what color I am. He didn't think to question it. But let me tell you something. Once he finds out, and he won't be so polite anymore. And another thing, he's not going to like being fooled that way. I didn't fool him. I'm not going to stand here and argue with you about it, but I'm going to tell you this. You leave these white boys around here alone, and don't you let them think you're white when you're not. Aunt Mary, I'd like to get to know Stewart. He seems nice. Mama folded her arms and looked at the floor. Even from where I stood, I could feel her anger rising. I made up my mind a long time ago that I won't marry a colored man. I won't live like my mother. Mama kept looking at the floor for a long time. When she did look up again, it was evident she had not managed to suppress her anger. If your Uncle David was here, he'd probably pack you up and send you back to New York right now. Me, I'm going to give you a choice. You can do what I say and stay, or if you don't like being with us, Aunt Mary, I never meant, and you can't follow the rules we have in this house, then you can go back to New York today. We'll all miss you, but I'm not going to have trouble about this, not if I can help it. Now you think on it and let me know. Turning from her, Mama walked brusquely from the room, passing me without ordering me back to the clothesline. For a moment, I stayed in the doorway watching Suzella, who turned to the window. I started to leave her to her misery. Then thoughts of how she had acted with Stewart came rushing back, and I went in. I sat on the bed across from her. Well, you going? She turned. What? You going? Mama says she's leaving it up to you. Her eyes stayed on me. Be honest, Cassie. You'd like for me to leave, wouldn't you? I shrugged. Wouldn't cry none. I asked you once why you didn't like me and you wouldn't tell me. Maybe you can tell me now. Well, long as you the one brought it up. How you expect somebody to be liking you when you going around here thinking you better than they are? Cassie, I don't think that. Well, I'd like to know what you call it then. Around here talking about it, you ain't colored. Ain't nothing wrong with being colored. I never said there was. But she looked away as she said so. And another thing, I said, decided to lay it all out for her as long as I was letting her have it. I ain't one to be appreciating somebody going around here always being nice and grinning in folks' face when they don't think no better of them than not to even mention they kin to them. I'm sorry about that, Cassie. All you had to do was open your mouth and say, these here are my cousins and I'm staying with them. That's all. I said I was sorry. Well, sorry don't make it right. She looked up at me and shook her head. You don't understand. I understand all right, I coldly assured her. No, you don't. She got up and looked out the window. If you heard what Aunt Mary said to me, then you heard what I said to her. I meant what I said about not marrying a colored man. My mother did, and it's just brought her a lot of misery. I guess so. She white, I replied unsympathetically. That was her choice. Then, but she's told me over and over, Suzella, you can pass. Do it. She turned suddenly to look at me. Do you know what it's like when people think you're white? You can do just about anything, Cassie. Sometimes Mother and I go to some of the better beaches, just the two of us, and the boys are so nice to me. White boys? There are no colored boys at those beaches, she answered pointedly. What about your father? Don't he ever go with y'all? She looked back out the window. We don't go many places together, the three of us. People stare, and both my parents feel uncomfortable about it. What about you? She didn't answer. Usually I go places with my mother. Where we live are all colored people, but when we just get on a bus and go to another part of town, there's not any staring, and we're accepted. Well, you like being white so much, I guess you'll be glad to get on back to New York then. She sat again and, kicking off her shoes, tucked her legs under her. She was very quiet. I got up. Cassie, you're very lucky, you know that? What? I mean, you've got family and friends at home. People don't come visit. Oh, you got family and friends at home? People don't come visiting like they do here. My mother's a saleswoman at a 5 and 10, and she has friends there, but she never invites them home. She doesn't accept their invitations to visit either. Daddy's friends, they're all colored, and every now and then they come by, but they always feel uncomfortable with Mother there. So there's just the three of us most times. It's different here. I studied her. What about your friends? She was silent a long minute. All my friends are at school. I go to a Catholic school outside the neighborhood. Mother says that schooling is my way out. How come your folks still together? Your mother hated so much. Susella looked at me as if the answer was obvious. They love each other. Oh, I said, though it didn't seem much like love to me. She sat a while longer, then got up and put her shoes back on. I guess I better find Aunt Mary. To tell her you're going? No. My father wants me to stay longer, maybe even start school here. What? I want to stay myself if I can get lessons sent from my school in New York. Lord, I sighed, afraid we would never be rid of her now. I don't see why. Her eyes met mine before she turned away. I know, she said. The next morning at Bible class, Mo said, Joe Billy Monteer come by the house last night asking about Susella. What? Cried little Willie, who had practically appointed himself Suzella's personal bodyguard. Stacy's brow furrowed. What'd he say? Mo glanced across the field where Susella was talking to several girls her own age. He made like he was coming about farm business, but it was her he really wanted to find out about. Pearson was with him. Said he seen her on the road and wanted to know about her. Said he was with Cassie and them. Said she was with Cassie and them, and he was wondering if I knew who she was staying with. And what'd you tell him? Said Stacy. Nothing, except that she was your cousin. And you told him that? I cried. Yeah. Oh, Lord. Mo looked puzzled, as he had a right to be. Joe Billy, he looked real funny about it, too. Then Pearson laughed and said something about wait till Stewart get a hold of this. Stacy, looking uneasy, glanced over at me. He knew what Susella had done now. Everybody at the house knew. Don't be looking at me, I told him, still vexed with him for not listening to me in the first place. She's your cousin. What's the matter? Asked Mo. Stacy shook his head. Misunderstanding, that's all. My foot, I mumbled. Lord, said little Willie, them scoundrels take a liking to Susella. I'm going to have to bust some heads round here. Stacy, you better tell your cousin not to be messing with them. Don't want her in the same kind of mess JC in. Them scoundrels. Mo cut a disapproving glance at little Willie, who faltered and grew silent. An awkward silence followed. Stacy glanced from one to the other. What kind of mess? Ah, man, started little Willie. I said, what kind of mess? Little Willie looked at Mo. Come on, tell me. Man, said little Willie, ain't you seen her? She been sick the last few weeks, you know that. Went up to her house a couple times, but her mama says she can't see nobody. She up and around now? Yeah, seen her yesterday. Stacy looked anxiously out around the schoolyard. You seen her this morning? She here? Wouldn't hardly think so. That girl. Stacy, you better come on with us, Mo said quietly. There's something you're going to have to know anyway. His eyes were on me as he spoke. Well, what is it? I demanded. Both little Willie and Mo ignored my question as they walked away with Stacy between them. I started after them, but Mo said, Cassie, we got to talk to Stacy alone, okay? It wasn't okay, but since I didn't have much choice, I stopped. I watched them cross the playing field to the edge of the forest on the other side. For several moments, they stood there. Then Stacy waved his hand in an angry gesture and started away. Little Willie and Mo grabbed him and talked some more, but he pulled away again and stalked into the forest. Little Willie started after him, but Mo stopped him, and after another glance at the forest, the two came back across the field as the bell for Bible classes began to ring. You going in? I looked around. Alma Scott, who could be quite civil when Mary Lou Wellover wasn't around, was standing beside me. Yeah, I guess. Absently, I walked over to the church with her. What's the matter? She said. I turned to her. You seen J.C. Peters lately? Yeah, a couple of days ago. There anything the matter with her? Alma looked surprised. J.C. Peters? You kidding? I stared at her blankly. Cassie, don't you know? J.C. Peters about to have a baby. Folks say it could be any of them white boys, and J.C. herself say it's Stewart's. She's this big already. Alma held out her hand to indicate how advanced JC was. We walked on. Alma continued to talk, but I wasn't listening. I felt bad for JC. That she was pregnant was bad enough. That the father was through a walker, a white boy, was total disaster. Had the father been black, Mr. Peters could have seen to it that the boy married JC and JC's future could have been saved. But with a white boy, there was no recourse. All the shotguns in the world gave Mr. Peters no power when a white boy was concerned. Stacy stayed in the forest until the bell rang, dismissing the classes, and as he walked home in an angry silence, I said nothing to him about JC. But after supper, when I found him standing alone on the back porch, I told him that I knew. He said nothing, just stood there, rage lining his face, his eyes on the horizon. Herb Stewart's the father. Still, he said nothing. I reached out to comfort him. I'm just real sorry. I know how much you call yourself liking her. Like to kill him. What? Like to just snap his neck with my bare hands. Him and every other crack around here. Boy, you know you can't. He stepped from the porch and quickly crossed the yard to the garden gate and headed toward the pasture. I stepped down to follow, but the kitchen door opened and Mama said, "Let him go, Cassie." I looked back at her. You know? She nodded. He talked to you about it? She didn't answer right away. No, this is something he'd talk to your father about if he were here. Well, how'd you find out then? News like this always travels fast, Cassie. You'll find out as you grow older that people like to pass bad news. Mama, what's going to happen to JC? Mama stepped out farther onto the porch and leaned against a post. I can't really say. Maybe she'll meet a nice young man who'll love her and won't care about a white man's child. Maybe she'll have to struggle through life alone. One thing, though, it's going to be hard on that child being a part of two worlds. Maybe wanting to belong to the white one and having to belong to this one. It's like that for Suzella, too, ain't it? Well, it's not easy for her. It's not easy for anybody being both black and white. You and I, we have only one world and we know which one it is. The world's a tough place for mostly everybody, but for colored folks, it's even tougher. People caught in the middle like Suzella, who could likely pass, sometimes decide to do just that. And I can't really say I blame them. Mama, if you look white, would you pass? Mama puckered her lips, thinking. Finally, she shook her head. No, my sweet child, I wouldn't. I love the people in this black world I'm in too much. She waited a moment. What about you? I thought on it too. No, ma'am, I don't expect so. But I tell you one thing, them white folks give us the same things they got. Seem to me folks wouldn't even have to be wondering about passing at all. Mama's eyes settled on me and she smiled. Did I ever tell you what a smart young person you are? I smiled back, pleased. Then we both looked out to the pasture. My thoughts were on JC and her baby. They were on Suzella too. I still didn't like her and didn't intend to like her, but somehow JC's having this baby made me feel just a little bit for her somehow. Not much, but just a little. It was late when the dog started barking and Dubé and Russell came hammering at the door, waking us up. They sat before the fireplace. Dubé said nothing, Russell telling us that they had just seen the house where the Union men stayed set afire. You know, I was going over there with Dubé, Russell said. Well, when me and Dubé got over there late this afternoon, Mr. Wheeler and Mr. Moses and another colored fella and two more white men was there. Dubé, he told them I was interested in the Union, and they seemed real pleased to talk to me about it. Offered us coffee, and we sat on into the night talking. Then about 9 o'clock, me and Dubé, we decided we better get on home, and we left. Before we got to the road, we seen headlights coming down the road real fast. We didn't like the look of it, so we jumped off in the bushes. Was they nightmen? I asked. Mama looked back at me, but didn't say anything. Russell shook his head. Don't know exactly who they was. They wasn't masked or nothing. Just got out of them cars and set the place afire. Burned it down. Lord, no, moaned Big Ma. What about the Union men? Said Mr. Morrison, who had come up as soon as the dogs had started barking. Wheeler and Moses and the rest, they get out? Believe they did, because I heard one of them burners yell something about folks slipping out the back door, and a bunch of them took off after them, hollering about there wasn't going to be no socialist union down in here. That's when Dubé and me decided we better slip off, but we couldn't much risk the road because they had a car going along it slow, seeing if anybody was on it. We stayed along the creek till we couldn't hear them no more. Then after that, we waited a long time for coming out, afraid they was playing possum. Finally, we slipped out, come along the edge of the woods. We was going to try to make it home, but we seen lights again, and we decided we best get inside somewheres. Y'all's place was the closest we could think of. Y'all don't mind, we figured to stay here a while before going on. Mama decided it was too late for them to think about going anywhere farther tonight, and she and Stacy set about making pallets for them on the floor in the boys' room. Meanwhile, Big Ma fussed over Russell, whose arm had been badly scratched during his flight. Russell assured her that he could hardly feel it, but Big Ma insisted that she put some antiseptic on it. Now you just take that ripped shirt on off. I'll sew it up first thing in the morning. Miss Caroline, you ain't gotta. I know I ain't, but I wants to. So just go on and get out of it and give it to Suzella there and let me get to that arm. Russell looked back over his shoulder. Suzella, I didn't see you there. Sorry to be waking you up. When she didn't speak, he grinned good-naturedly and took off his shirt, exposing his bare chest, and handed it to her. Wordlessly, she looked at him, then took the shirt and returned to the bedroom. After I had said goodnight to both Dubé and Russell, I followed her in, and as soon as the door closed, let her have it. You could have at least said goodnight to Russell. It wouldn't have hurt you none. She jumped, startled by my entrance. She had been staring at the shirt, holding it close to her. Now she laid it carefully over a chair and slipped into bed while I got down on my pallet where I had been sleeping since she had come. Along with everything else, I greatly resented the fact that she had taken over my side of the bed, and when I had fussed about it, Big Mouth had said that I could still sleep in the bed if I wanted to, in the middle. But seeing no reason why I should be sleeping in the middle when it was Suzella who was the intruder, I had chosen the pallet. Russell's my friend, I continued to grunt. Everybody like him. Cassie, what? Let's not talk about it. I started to say, yeah, let's talk about it, but realized before I said it that I really didn't want to talk about it either. I suppose I simply want to talk, to keep men who carried fire and wandered the roads and cars with headlights that shone like cat eyes in the night from crawling into my sleep. They had done it before. No doubt they would do it again. I sighed helplessly and turned my back to Suzella. There was no keeping them out. Talk of the burning spread as quickly through the community as if it had been the fire itself, and people got the message. Without Morris Wheeler and John Moses and the other union members, courage fizzled, and the integrated meeting, which was to have taken place, did not. It was uncertain what had become of the union men, but everyone knew that they had been run out, though no one seemed to know where they were now. Then John Moses' body was found in a creek bed near Smellings Creek. Oh my goodness. They think they gonna bust up the union by killing Mr. Moses, said Dubé, who took the death hard. But they can't nothing but bust up the union now. They'll see. Life settled down again. The days passed, dry and hot, good growing weather for the cotton after the heavy spring rains. Papa wrote often. His letters sounded cheery, but we could read the loneliness in them. He said he was looking forward to coming home for Revival Sunday in August. He said, too, that work on the railroad had not been going well. He was no longer working a full 6-day week, but only 2 or 3 days, or whenever there was work. Still, 3 days' pay was better than no pay at all, and he stayed on. Each time Papa wrote, he asked about the cotton. Mama wrote back that the cotton looked good, and it did. Yet despite how good looking it was, Mama, Big Ma, and Mr. Morrison seemed worried. Stacy was worried too. One burning hot afternoon, when every person with good sense should have been sitting under a shade tree somewhere, I saw him walking with the cows, his head bent to the cotton. I followed behind him. "What you studying on so hard?" I asked. He didn't answer right away. I waited. He peered at one of the plants. Then, sitting on his haunches, broke off a bowl and opened it up. The cotton had begun to form. He held it over for me to see. "See that, Cassie?" "What?" "Them fibers. They're going to be long staple, white." "Well, that's good," I said. "Yeah, it's mighty good. It might be one of the best crops we've had." "Then how come you look so worried?" "Because as good as it is, we ain't going to get near about what it's worth. And what do we get? And what we do get, it ain't going to be enough." Stacy looked across the fields to the acres planted in alfalfa that should have been planted in cotton. "We'd have been able to plant them other acres there if things could have been so bad. Things wouldn't have been so bad. Or we'd have had a contract and they'd have paid us for them acres we ain't using." I followed his gaze. "We made out last year," I reminded him, "and we lost part of them acres anyway because of the fire, and we ain't had Papa's railroad money or Mama's script for most of the year. But Uncle Hammer was here to help then. Now he got to repay that money he borrowed to buy the land clear from the bank, so he ain't got much to get this year. Not only that, because of the way things been, we had to buy on credit from that store in Vicksburg, and you know that's something Mama and Papa and Big Ma always tried to keep from doing, but we ain't had no choice. A good part of the crop going to have to go to paying the store debt, and Cassie, there's always them taxes on the land." That scared me. We grew quiet, and in our silence, all the sounds of the day seemed louder. A bee zoomed past, trumpeting its presence, and a dragonfly spun in rapid delight above our heads, then flew on in happy celebration. I shaded my eyes with my hands and looked out over the land. The forest, deep greens and shades of brown. The fields looking like patchwork quilt of growing things. The house, the orchard, the meadowland, were as much a part of me as my arms, my legs, my head. There couldn't be life without them. The look on Stacy's face told me he felt the same. Been thinking, he said. Been thinking maybe I can get me a job. Like the last time, I said dryly. Boy, you and Mama have been through that business before. Ain't gonna ask Mama. She still thinking me too much like a baby. Papa most likely be home come Revival Sunday, and that ain't so far off now. I'm gonna talk to him about it then. He'll understand. I thought on that and agreed. He said you can get a job. Whereabouts you gonna find one? Somewhere around here. Remember Mr. Harrison? He just up and offered me one. Boy, that job been gone. Most likely, but I figured to find something. Gotta. Stacy, Cassie. Mama, she said y'all come here. Little man hollered from the back porch. Stacy stood and wiped his hands together to remove the dust. Cassie, do me a favor, huh? What's that? Don't say nothing to Mama or nobody about me thinking about a job, huh? She just be getting all upset, and I just rather talk to Papa about it first, all right? I looked up at him, wondering if he realized how good it felt to have him confiding in me, how good I felt to have him confiding in me again. All right, I said. When we reached the front yard, we found Christopher John sitting under the chinaberry tree, his knees pulled to his chest and his head buried against them. What's the matter with you? I said. He looked up. He had been crying. What's the matter? Stacy repeated. Mr. Morrison brought a letter from Papa. Did? Cried Stacy just now. Christopher John nodded. Then what you crying about? I questioned. Papa said he ain't coming home for revival. An awful feeling shot through me and my stomach sank. Without looking at me, Stacy started toward the house. I followed. Inside, Mama read Papa's letter to us without emotion. Then she put it away and did not speak of it again. All of us understood why Papa thought it better that he stay where he was to earn as much money as he could whenever he could work. But understanding did not take away the loneliness. We missed him too. We missed him so. Stacy wandered off alone after he heard the letter. I watched him, wondering what he was going to do about that job of his now. August came, and all of us, including Suzella, went to the fields, dragging the cotton bags at our sides. Though the long days from sunup to sundown, we worked, bending and picking and stuffing the cotton into our bags. Soon the days of August passed into September, and Mr. Morrison made an overnight trip to Vicksburg to sell our first load of cotton. He took Stacy with him. When they got back late the next day, they reported that cotton prices were the same in Vicksburg as they were in Strawberry. Mama sat silently thinking, and they're not any higher than they were in August? Mr. Morrison shook his head. They steady, but, you can never tell. They could rise or fall. Mama pursed her lips and looked at Big Ma. I think we ought to wait until near the end of the month before selling any more of the cotton and see how prices are then. Both Big Ma and Mr. Morrison nodded, confirming their agreement. Mama looked at Stacy. What do you think, Stacy? If Stacy was surprised that Mama had asked his opinion, he didn't show it. I think that's the best thing, too, he said. Mama kept her eyes on him a moment, then nodded. All right, then. Come the end of the month, we'll take the cotton and the strawberry. On the last Friday in September, when we came from the fields, Mr. Morrison and Stacy put the sideboards on the wagon. The sideboards were regular plank boards, which fitted neatly on top of all four wagon sides, making the wagon's interior deeper and allowing it to hold some 1,500 pounds of cotton. We loaded the cotton, packing it tightly until the wagon was filled, then covered the top with the tarpaulin and fastened it down. The next morning, Mr. Morrison hitched up both Lady and Jack. Then he and Mama climbed into the wagon seat, and Stacy and I climbed on top of the cotton bed. Frankly, I was surprised that I was going. I had pointed out to Mama several times that Stacy had been allowed not only to observe business since he had been 10, but to take care of some of it as well. I supposed I had finally convinced her that my education in practical matters was just as important as his. After all, she had had to run the farm and sell the crops. Perhaps I would too someday. It was still early when we reached the Granger Walker Mill to the cotton gin, not yet 6 o'clock. Already wagons had begun to gather, and more than 15 were ahead of us, their occupants taking the time before the mill opened at 7:30 to catch naps on top of the cotton or stretch their legs in the dawning light. Here, there were no segregated lines. There was only one large barn door-like gate opening to mill and one road leading into it. It was simply a matter of first come, first served. At 7:30 exactly, the huge doors swung open and Stuart Walker, his father Hamden, and Pearson Wells stepped out. At the sight of Stewart, anger snapped alive in Stacy's eyes. I saw it, so did Mama. Not a word, do you hear? She quietly told him. Not one word. Stacy sucked in his breath and looked away. The ginning of cotton was a slow process, and it was after 12 o'clock when we reached the entrance. How do there, Mary? Stewart said as we pulled up. I saw Mama bite her lower lip before she spoke. I bit my lip as well, remembering that Mama had told me to keep my mouth shut, but it was hard. Mama was a good 14 years older than Stewart, and for her to have to show him respect when he did not do the same for her was galling. There was a strange smirk on Stewart's face as Mama answered. I was afraid he was going to say something about Suzella, but he didn't. He waved us into the mill. Their pipes were placed inside the uncovered wagon, and the cotton was sucked into a machine, which cleaned the cotton, then removed the seeds from it. Afterward, the cotton was cleaned once more and funneled into a ginning press, which compressed it into 500-pound bales. Our cotton came to one bale, a neat rectangular package covered on two sides with burlap and held together by iron bands. Mama paid the ginning charge, then the seeds from the cotton and the bale of cotton were loaded onto the wagon, and we headed to the warehouse where the cotton buyers were located. As we pulled into place at the end of a long line, we spied Mo Turner standing some ways off, staring at the buyers in the open field surrounding the warehouse. Hey, Mo, Stacy called. Mo, what you doing here? Mo looked up, somewhat surprised. We all knew that he wasn't in town to sell cotton. Sharecroppers like the Turners were not allowed to sell their own cotton. At the end of each day, they took their cotton to the plantation center and turned it over to Mr. Montier, who saw to his ginning and sold it as well. Whatever money, if any, Mr. Montier felt was due to the sharecroppers was then given to them after all the deducts had been figured. Mo came over to the wagon and greeted us. Papa had some errands to run in town, so me and Elroy come along with them. Y'all getting ready to sell y'all's cotton, huh? That's right, Mama said. Top price going at 11 cents a pound. Mama nodded. That's what we heard. Ain't enough, said Mo. It's more than it was 2 years ago, son, said Mr. Morrison. Yes, sir. Say, Stacy, could you come here a minute? I got something to show you. Stacy jumped off the wagon. As I jumped off after him, Mama warned us not to go far. At the end of the field, which circled the warehouse, Mo stopped. Look here, Stacy. I done made up my mind. He looked at me, then pulled Stacy away. Come with me a minute, will you? The way Mo had looked at me, I knew I wasn't wanted, so I let them go without protest and returned to the wagon. As I neared it, I saw that Mr. Granger had come up and taken it upon himself to pull a handful of cotton from our bales to inspect it. Mama stood beside him. It looks good, Mary, he said after a moment. Long staple, clean, strong, mighty good. Thank you, Mr. Granger. Y'all will get top price for it. We're hoping so. Of course, 11 cents a pound don't hardly compare to that 35 cents a pound we got in 1919. Surely don't. Still, it's better than we have had. That's very true, Mr. Granger. Mr. Granger let his cotton sample drop to the ground. I heaved an angry sigh, but of course I could say nothing. Neither could Mama. Now, even though prices are some better, Mary, you and me both know that ain't enough to keep y'all going. I know the kind of bills y'all got. My offer to buy y'all's place still stands, same as last year. Well, we appreciate your concern, Mr. Granger, but we still aren't thinking of selling. Mr. Granger shrugged. Well, it's up to y'all, he said, then glanced up at Mr. Morrison, whose eyes had never left him, and walked back toward the warehouse. Get in the wagon, Cassie, Mama said. A pent-up rage was in her voice. I knew now was not the time to express my comments on Mr. Granger. I climbed onto the wagon without another word and waited. When the cotton had been sold and we headed down the main street of Strawberry in the empty wagon, we met the Turners on their way out. Glad to have the company on the long journey home, we trailed the Turners as far as the Wallace store. There, as the Turners continued west toward Smellings Creek, Mo called to Stacy. See you tomorrow? You coming to church at Great Faith, Mo? Mama asked. I'll be down that way, yes, ma'am, Mo said after a moment's hesitation. Bright and early. See you tomorrow then, Mo, I cried as our wagon turned south and headed for home. The sounds of late summer were in the air. We sat for a while on the front porch, enjoying the last taste of the long day, and finally, when the moon rose full and yellow overhead, Mr. Morrison stood and said goodnight. Stacy jumped up and walked out into the yard with him, and the rest of us went into the house. While Suzella dallied with Mama and Big Ma in the other room, I made up my palette, then returned to Mama's room, where Big Ma sat doing some late evening darning, and Mama and Suzella were writing letters. As I entered, Stacy came through the side door, and for a moment he just stood there. Then he did a strange thing. He walked over to Mama, sitting at the desk, and kissed her. Then he did the same with Big Ma. Good night, he said. Mama looked up from her letter. Good night, honey. See you in the morning. Stacy crossed to his room, looked back once more, and softly closed the door. Lord, I don't remember last time that child kissed us goodnight, said Big Mom, smiling, obviously pleased. That was sweet, wasn't it? And now, Miss Cassie, don't you think it's time you were saying goodnight, too? What about Suzella? Good night, Cassie, Mama answered with a lilt to her voice. I said good night and went back to my room. I changed into my nightgown, then turned the lamp low and headed for the pallet. But just as I slipped under the covers, Stacy called to me from the porch. Grumbling because he had waited until I was already lying down, I got up and crossed to the door and pulled the latch. Stacy stood there, his penknife in hand. Boy, I thought you went to bed. I'm going in a minute. I just wanted to give you this, he said, and extended the knife toward me. I studied him suspiciously. What make you want to give it to me? Just do, that's all. Well, you said you wanted it. You still do? Yeah, I want it. Well, take it then. I took the knife and held it gingerly, not quite believing it was mine. Stacy, you best not let Mama see you with it. You know how she feel about knives. I nodded. As I did, Stacy bent and kissed my forehead. Boy, you all right? You feeling feverish or something? Stacy walked back to his room and turned at the door. I'm fine, Cassie. Now you just be careful with that knife, you hear? I nodded again. Now go on back in and pull the latch. You sure you're all right? I'm sure. Go on now, he said, and watched me until I closed the door. I slipped the latch, then heard Stacy's door close. Clutching the penknife in my hand, I went back to the pallet where I had a few minutes to examine the knife before I heard Big Ma coming and had to put it under my pillow. I just couldn't get over the fact that Stacy had actually given the knife to me. I tossed and turned for a while, wondering why he had, and finally decided that if this was a new kind of phase Stacy was going through, I hoped it would last for a while. In the morning, we found the note. Written in Stacy's sprawling, awkward hand, it said, Dear Mama, I know y'all ain't going to understand this, but I gotta go. I found me a job, pay $8 a week. Problem is, I gotta leave here to get it. Mr. Morrison, I know he take good care of things. Don't nobody worry about me now. I'll be just fine. Your son, Stacy. I love all of y'all. All right, and that is the end of chapter 9. Be tuning in again with y'all for another story time with more of my soon from Let the Circle Be Unbroken, which is the sequel to Roll of Thunder, Hear My Cry by Mildred D. Taylor. Y'all have a blessed rest of y'all day. Peace.